The Gabba, thank you. Well, retailers, some of them are opting to take Australia Day merchandise off their shelves, and it has become part of the whole January 26 debate. Woolworths was accused of being un-Australian when it announced it wouldn't be selling those items this year. Other brands, though, have perhaps slightly more quietly followed suit. Joining me live is Adrian Falk, who's founder and director of Believe Advertising Agency. Thanks for your time. The interesting thing about Woolworths is when we're sort of sifting through the decision now, what happened. So it met with an Indigenous council within its company, then made the decision, and it's since said perhaps it could have been more upfront. Is this the element of it? They initially said it's purely because of demand, that people weren't buying some of the products. But when that doesn't, ring true, that's when people get a bit suspicious and they just want, businesses to be upfront.
Absolutely, Tom, and good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me. Yes, big brands are banning Australia Day, with Woolworths, as you mentioned, paving the way. It all happened early in the month when it was announced that they no longer will be selling Australia Day merchandise, and then customers quickly voted with their wallet. In fact, Peter Dutton jumped on board and said that there should be a boycott of the national retailer. Then they started to backtrack a little bit, saying that it was due to national demand for the products. But, Tom, there's a lot of confusion with today being a sensitive day. Obviously, it means different things to different people. It wasn't that long ago that we were all told by the Meat and Livestock Association that we should be eating lamb on Australia Day. What would you do, Tom, if you're a vegetarian? Now brands are telling us it's un-Australian to be Australian on Australia Day.
It's been an interesting one for Woolworths. How do we chart what people think overall? Because there are plenty of Australians who don't like aspects of Australia Day, that want the day shifted. There are still in the majority that want it kept, but probably a growing number that are ambivalent. How does a brand measure if it's successful, like Woolworths, as to what it's done? I guess it annoys some people and, impresses others. Is it better here to go under the parapet, not get noticed, like some of the other brands that have more quietly taken Australia Day stuff off their shelves?
Good question, Tom. I think brands like Woolworths actually need to have a well thought out communications, PR and advertising approach. You can't just make an announcement that we're pulling Australia Day merchandise from the shelf due to one reason and then running ads to say for another reason, in fact, why this is the case. There's a lot of confusion with Australia Day. Just this morning, Waverley Council were running a memorial type service, an Anzac Day type service on the world famous Bondi Beach. City of Sydney, in fact, has no mention of Australia Day on their website yet. Yesterday, they had flags throughout the city with the word celebrate on them. So I feel like there needs to be a way that brands and the nation can move forward, which perhaps needs to stem from the top down.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? So just celebrate. It's like if people ask, they can point to it. People don't like Australia Day, they go, well, it wasn't there, having a bet each way. You mentioned Meat and Livestock and the lamb ads we've all come to know. And this was interesting that was picked up on with this lamb ad. So it's another good one this year, I reckon. Playing into the generation divides, which are alive and well. I guess they always will be. It doesn't actually mention the words Australia Day. So they're putting the ads out at the same time of year. They've always been big on Aussie Day ads, not mentioning it anymore.
That's right. This year, they actually sort of played, I feel, with the whole woke culture that we're now entering in this generation. The 2024 lamb ad has no mention. They nearly say the word Australia Day, and then they sort of revert from it. It's all about bringing the country back together. Everyone's got just different opinions about today, and it's bringing the country back together, of course, by eating lamb. Whether or not that's going to, work with the consumers is another story. I think people can start seeing through this, and they want some answers.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Maybe that's where the conversation will go next, now that that's been picked up. Adrian, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tom, for having me.
When we come back, how a competition watchdog inquiry into the supermarket giants will complement an ongoing review to grocery prices. One of the